Hey, welcome to the Explainer. Biology is this massive, sprawling subject, right? It covers everything from the tiniest little cell to the whole planet. So today, we're going to try and create a map. We're going to journey through the main branches of biology and figure out how everything, and I mean everything, connects. I mean, haven't we all wondered about stuff like this? You see a plant reaching for the sun, or a bird doing some weird little dance, and you just think, why? Well, it's exactly those kinds of questions, that little spark of curiosity, that fuels all of science. And biology? That's the key that unlocks the answers.
And when you get right down to it, the word biology itself gives the whole game away. It's from the Greek bios, which means life, and logos, which means study. So it's literally the study of life. It's the science that dives into how every living thing on this planet is built, how it works, and how it all interacts.
Okay, so how are we going to tackle this beast of a subject? Well, think of it like we're using a giant funnel. We'll start super broad with the big picture stuff. Then we'll get more and more focused, zooming right into the blueprints of life. Then figuring out how those blueprints actually work. And finally, we'll see how it all affects us and the world around us. All right, first up, what really is biology? I mean, it's so much more than just a class you had to take, right? It's literally the science that helps us solve some of the biggest problems we face, from our own health to how we grow our food, and even how we can protect our planet. So when you think about the millions upon millions of different species on Earth, you might wonder, how do we even begin to organize all that? Well, scientists have different ways of classifying life. The top level is these three huge domains. But for our purposes, for a really practical way to get our heads around it, we're going to break it down into three major fields of study.
And here they are, what you could call the three main pillars of biology. First, you've got zoology, which is all about animals. Then there's botany, which covers everything in the incredible plant kingdom. And then there's the really cool one, microbiology. This is where we dive into the invisible world of microorganisms, stuff like bacteria and fungi. It's a whole universe you can't even see.
Okay, so we've got our three big categories. Now let's push a little deeper into that funnel of ours. This next step is all about the blueprints, the actual physical structure of living things. What are they made of? How are all the pieces put together? What I love about this is how it's like different zoom levels. You start with morphology, which looks at the whole organism, its overall shape and structure inside and out. Then anatomy takes you one level deeper, looking specifically at the internal organs. But then you grab a microscope for histology, and you're zooming in even further to see the actual tissues that build those organs. It's incredible. But guess what? We can go even deeper still. We can get down to the most basic, fundamental building block of all life, and that is the cell. The field that studies these tiny powerhouses is called cytology, and without cells, well, nothing else we've talked about would even exist. Just look at that number for a second. That's 30 trillion. That's the best guess for how many individual cells are in your body right now, all working together. It just blows your mind, right? And it really puts into perspective the massive scale cytologists are dealing with. So, with all these different organisms and all their different parts, you gotta ask, how on earth do we keep track of it all? That's where taxonomy comes into play. It's like the ultimate librarian for the natural world, carefully sorting and labeling every single species to create this beautiful, intricate map we call the tree of life. All right, we've spent a lot of time on the blueprints, the what. Now it's time to pop the hood and look at the engine. We're moving from structure to function, exploring all the amazing processes that actually make life, well, live. This is probably one of the most important distinctions to get. Anatomy is the list of parts. It's the what is it. So for the circulatory system, that's the heart, the arteries, the veins. But physiology, that's the what does it do. It's how that system actually pumps blood around your body. One is the structure, the other is the function. Simple as that. And man, when we talk about function, it gets deep. You've got molecular biology, which is looking at the very code of life itself. DNA, proteins, the whole shebang. Then there's embryology, which follows that absolutely mind-boggling journey from a single cell all the way to a fully formed organism. And genetics, that's the study of the rulebook that explains how all that information gets passed on from parent to child. To really understand life as it is now, you have to look back, way back. That's the job of paleoecology. It's like being a history detective, using fossils as clues.
And we're talking about a timeline that stretches from the very first signs of life, like a tiny bacterium 3.5 billion years ago, all the way through the age of dinosaurs. Fossils are literally our window into the past. Okay, so here's the thing. All this science, it doesn't just happen in a lab somewhere. It's not in a vacuum. For our final section, we're going to zoom all the way back out and see how all these different pieces of the puzzle come together and have a real direct impact on every single one of us. This is where we see how everything is connected. Take ecology. It studies the delicate dance between organisms and their environment. Like the food web, it shows us that if you pull on one string, the whole thing can unravel. And then you have fields like marine biology that apply those exact same ideas to huge, vital systems like our oceans, which, let's be honest, we all depend on. And this is where it gets really personal. Biology is, without a doubt, absolutely essential for human health. You have pathology, which is basically the detective work of figuring out exactly what's gone wrong when we get sick. And then you have immunology, the study of our body's own amazing army, the immune system, that's constantly fighting to keep us safe. So all that knowledge, it leads to real solutions. A great example is pharmacology, this science of how medicines work. It's a really clear process. First, you have to understand the disease. Then you find a specific biological target to aim for. From there, you can develop a drug, and finally, you study its effects to make sure it's actually helping people. It's biology in action. So let's do a quick wrap-up of what we've seen. We took this huge, kind of intimidating subject, biology, and we gave it some structure. We started with the big three, zoology, botany, and microbiology. We clarified that huge difference between structure, or anatomy, and function, or physiology. And most importantly, we saw how it all connects, from a single molecule all the way up to our planet, and why that matters to every single one of us. So when you think about it, biology is just this giant collection of amazing puzzles, right? From what's happening inside a single cell to how an entire ecosystem works, it really just leaves you with one question, doesn't it? With so many mysteries out there, if you could dive into any one of them, which puzzle would you try to solve first?